Hi, and welcome to the distance section of CSC 230, CN Software Tools. This is a short video that I record every semester, updating or introducing you to the specific semester you're in. We have all the lectures recorded from the past, but those are about a year old now. We update them every couple of years, but every year a few things change. So I record this short video to talk about some things that are specific to the distance section, just to make sure the the most essential parts of the class get updated. I'm David Sturgill. I'm the one responsible for the distance section. I'm teaching the 601 distance section. I'm also teaching one of the on-campus sections this semester. There's another one of those, and together they are about 200 students on campus. I've taught the on-campus section several times before. There's usually a smaller distance section. I think this semester we have about 20 students in that. And I've worked with that for several semesters also. Generally, we'll be coordinating everything between the on-campus sections and the distance sections, so you'll be going through the same projects. You'll be taking exams on about the same semester. There are a number of things that will happen in class, like exercises that you'll be on the same schedule with, or that you'll be doing on the same schedule as the on-campus section. Like I said, this semester I'm doing the distance section, the 601 section, and one of the on-campus sections, section 1. I've got, as a distance student, you may not be able to come to campus, but if you are nearby, I've got an office in the EB2 building on Centennial Campus in room 2294. I picked out some office hours that are mostly going to be helpful to the on-campus students, but if you can make it there, if those times work for you, you're welcome to come by also. For the distance section, I'm going to have something that's recommended by the Engineering Online program, an online office hour. I've got that on Tuesday evening. Hopefully that'll work out well. That's the day before your projects are generally going to be due. So I picked a time from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock on Tuesday evening. I'm not sure what technology I'm going to use for that. We might use an online chat program. In the past, I've used things like a YouTube streaming session to kind of post things immediately as students ask questions. I hope to, between now and when next week when we offer the first of these, I hope to try out a few different things and try and decide what's going to work. But that's a time that's supposed to be available particularly to help out students in the distance section. So look for that starting up, usually the second week of class. I'm just teaching, we've got two on-campus sections, about 100 students each. Dr. William Enck is teaching the other section, section 1, and we're going to be coordinating all of our activities between those sections. In addition, we've got about 5 TAs assigned to each of the sections. Each of those are going to help out with things like keeping up with Piazza posts. They'll have on-campus office hours. They'll help to grade exams and projects throughout the semester. I've got a page that lists everybody's office hours. I've given the link down there at the bottom of this page, and it's also linked from our Moodle page. So take a look at that if you do have a chance to come to campus. Any of these faculty members or TAs should be able to help you out with problems that you might be having on any of the exercises or on any of the projects. So I encourage, at the time of my recording, we don't have all the office hours figured out, but I'll be working with the TAs over the next week to figure out times that work out well for them for their office hours. Like I said before, for the distance section, we recorded these lectures. It's been about a year now since they were first recorded. When I recorded them, I tried to make them generic so that they'd make sense every semester. But I'm sure I still made some mistakes in there. I'm sure that maybe there was a student question, or I took an opportunity to talk about a current project or a current exercise. And if you're in the distance section, keep in mind that you're viewing lectures that may have been recorded about a year ago. So if I say things like on your current homework or on your current project, or if I talk about exercises that are due in a particular time, that may not and probably doesn't apply to the distance section. Sorry, I was going to say last semester. The semester when I recorded these a year ago, we did have one day of lecture where there was a surprise. There was a concern about something in the building, and they required us to evacuate our classroom. But I don't think the recording stopped right away because the recording was managed elsewhere on campus. So there will be a lecture. I think it's about the 2/3 point of the semester where there's some confusion and everybody gets up and walks out of the room, and maybe the recording goes on for a minute or two after that. I would say just when you see that happening, that'd probably be a good time to stop watching the lecture. Nothing bad happened that semester, but it did set us behind by maybe 20 minutes or a half an hour for that lecture. We eventually caught up. We tried to go a little faster for the remaining material, but when that happens, I apologize that occurred during this semester when we were recording these lectures. We eventually covered all the material. It just a few things had to get pushed to later lectures. Because these lectures were recorded about a year ago, if you look at the Moodle site for the distance section, I've kept the I guess the slides. They're in PDF, but I've kept the slides for those lectures unchanged since the original. But if there are any big improvements I made, like in Lecture 3, we changed a few things. In part, technology changes on campus required us to change a few things. So in those cases, I'll usually keep the original slides there, but I'll also post the updated slides. The original slides are there, so they make sense if you're following the recorded lectures, but the newer slides would match more what's going on right now, so I also gave those to you. Right now, when I'm recording this, I think Lecture 3 is the only time when I've done that, but as the semester goes on, there may be a few more cases where I get a chance to update some things. If you're watching the first day's lecture, you'll see it's recorded in the classroom. Again, a year ago when I taught that version of the class. So I might talk about days for exams and for the final. And those, of course, won't match exactly what you're doing this semester. This slide, I've listed what should actually apply to you as a distance section. You've got a window of time when you can take each of the exams. For exam 1, I picked a window that kind of is around when the on-campus section will take the exam. Same for exam 2. So it's about or when you take your exam, it'll be the same length as the on-campus section, an hour and 15 minutes. Same for the final. I picked a window of time that's a few days wide. When you can schedule time for your exam, you'll have a 3-hour time slot to take that. You'll be taking an exam that's similar, that I try to make it similar in difficulty. Certainly you'll have similar amount of time to take it, but it won't be the same exam. Honestly, there may be a few things in common, but I try to write different exams for the distance section and for the on-campus section. If you watch that first lecture, you may hear me talking about quizzes that the on-campus students take. For the on-campus section, usually at the end of every lecture, they take a short quiz, maybe 3 questions, in a few cases a little bit longer than that. As the distance section, that doesn't really work for you. So for most lectures, I've prepared an online quiz, sorry, through Moodle. Those I'll open up usually at the start of the week. I try to open up the exercises and the quizzes for every week. So just for the deadlines for those, for the online quizzes, I try to make those the same as the exercises, just to make it easy to remember. So the quizzes are due at 11 o'clock on Sunday evening, just like the exercises. Your quizzes, because they're online, they tend to be a little longer than the on-campus students. So whereas they may have 3 questions or so, you may have 8 to 12 questions, depending upon the material. Also, a year ago when we recorded these lectures, we're kind of in the last days of this particular technology called WolfWare Classic. It was great to have when I taught the class that way. We used kind of a combination of Moodle and WolfWare Classic, so for submitting exercises, for the first project, and for some other things, we hosted that on this older technology, but it was retired in the middle of 2018, so we don't get to use that anymore. That stuff's still in the recorded lectures. But for most of those things, like for submitting exercises, we switched that over to Moodle, so for every exercise, there'll be a Moodle assignment where you get to submit that. And some of the material at the start of Lecture 3, that's one reason I updated that. It talks about a few shortcuts that made sense when we were still using WolfWare Classic. That's not there anymore, so the recorded content is still there, but I also posted some updated slides that point out that we don't get to use that anymore. We've tried to come up with some alternatives that are about as convenient for you, but some of that recorded content, especially when I'm talking about making a symbolic link to the material in Moodle, we won't get to do that anymore. That's all for now. I tried to keep this lecture short, or I guess this video short, just talking about things that are different between the on-campus and the distance sections. A lot of the things that we do are going to be the same. So when you hear me talking in that first lecture about submitting exercises for every lecture, you'll be doing the same thing. You'll be submitting them online using the same interface. When we talk about the projects, and eventually when we start submitting those through Git, you'll be doing the same thing there. One thing to keep in mind is after the first couple of days of class, we'll depend on sorry, it says, I'm looking at my slide, and it says, be sure you're registered with our Moodle site, but I think that should probably say, be sure you're registered with our Piazza site, because after this first week, most announcements and most class discussion will happen on Piazza. I've already registered all the students in the distance section with Piazza, so you'll get an email from them asking you to go ahead and create an account with that site or make sure that you're registered with the class. So be sure you do that. That's a good place to get announcements for the class and to have discussion with instructors or with fellow students. So you should already have that. Be sure you respond to it. And that's all. Like I said, that's all for now. I'll, in a way, I'll see you in the next lecture. And feel free to contact me over Piazza or maybe over email if anything comes up. I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.